I spent the last 2 years trying to figure out a way for you guys to be able to economically follow your own opal dreams. Trying to do it by Dremel is way too hard. You can't cut fast enough. You can't get good enough outcomes consistently over time cutting with the Dremel. And I think my exploration with this high-tech 8-inch slant lap is going to give you the kind of cutting machine that you need in order to cut the kind of opal that you want to cut. Opal has been an amazing gift to me, and I am so grateful every day that I don't have to work for somebody else. I don't have to work in an office. I get to follow my own dreams and cut opal, trade opal, and buy and sell opal and help you guys with your own opal dreams. As I think about why I do what I do, the freedom, the adventure that opal has given me, I just want to share it with everybody else. I think it's such an amazing gemstone. This experience trying to hunt down and figure out a way to cut opal that's affordable, you know, for a lot more people is like in some ways my gift. Trying to figure out a way to share the love that I have for this amazing gemstone with as many people as I possibly can. I'm excited. Today is day 3 in setting up and getting this high-tech 8-inch machine up and running specifically for cutting opal. So day 1 was just an unboxing day. Day 2, we took it through the initial paces to try to figure out where it sat in terms of how well you could cut opal with it. We found that there was a couple of shortfalls in as much as going from this 180 hard diamond lap up to the brown softest lap, which is a 325 lap. So going from the 180 hard lap up to the 325 soft lap was too big of a jump to cut opal with. And in order to cut opal, you need to get out every single scratch from the layer before, and the 325 brown disc was not sufficiently grainy enough to take out all of the scratches that you get from the 180 grit. So what I've done is I've gone on High-Tech's website and I've ordered 2 laps to go in between these 2 laps. I ordered 1 hard lap and 1 soft lap. The hard lap, or diamond disc they call them, I ordered was a 260 grit disc. If you look on the sheet, they've got a purple soft disc here, which is a 220 grit smoothing disc they call them. It's hard for me to get at. I've used a flat lap for a long time. I've got used to calling them laps. They call them specifically smoothing discs. So I'm going to try to do that here when I'm working with their material so that you can say, oh, well, I need the smoothing disc, this or that. All right, so the box is here. Let's have a quick look at it and see that I got everything ordered. Okay, so important things for this project. I need a 260 lap and I need a 220 polishing pad. All right, so first out of the box here. Okay, so this is the purple 220 polishing pad. Doesn't look nearly as purple as the purple there, but that's what it is. I also got some replacement pads just in case. Everybody who orders this machine online talks about these clips falling off, so I would suggest getting a couple extra clips just in case. For future projects, I also got soft pads. The soft pads go between the smoothing disc and the acrylic backing plate. It essentially makes the cutting disc more like a Nova. It gives you a little bit of soft pressure there so that you can push down on it. It's supposed to help you with the curving. I had a chat with the guys at High-Tech and they suggested I get some of these, so that's part of it. This is the new acrylic disc. Through the 220 purple pad is going to get mounted on that acrylic disc, and this is the new diamond lap, 260 diamond lap. I think in order to get the perfect progression for opal, it's going to need to be 180 hard and then up to the 260 hard and then back down grit to the 220 and then up to 325, 600, and 1200. This is just a guess, but I think that's going to give me the perfect cut. I noticed that there's also a 3000 disc that's available, but I've done a lot of testing. I've got some videos about that testing, about jumping from a 600 or a 1500 all the way up to cerium, and that gives a great polish on opal. All right, let's have a go cutting and seeing what this looks like. Let's lift it up. Here, turn it on. All the way down to 6 and then up to the middle. A little underpowered because I hadn't turned it all the way up, right? Starting off with a nice flat surface, that's what we're looking for. All right, stage 1 is done. This stop the water, you just point it straight up. Here's a tip for new players. Whenever you're just breaking in a machine or looking at making sure that your setup is correct, don't try to cut anything fancy. Don't try to cut a cabochon or anything like that. Just get a piece of potch and cut something that's got a flat face on it. With a flat face, you can eliminate a bunch of variables by just looking at one thing. And the thing that I'm looking at right now is the progression of the scratches and the new wheels. And now we're going to try the new flat lap hard 260. I can tell that all of the scratches from the 180 have been taken out. Let's try jumping from the 260 back down to 220 with the new software. Okay, that's the 220. Now we go to the brown 325. Brown 325 done. Up to the red 600. And whenever you're cutting with this machine, you wouldn't do it like this. You would batch process your opals. So, you know, you cut 10 or 20 at one grit and then move up to the next grit. And then up to the blue 1200. Jump onto the felt. The felt, we don't use the spigot there. We use a slurry of cerium oxide. Alright, so pretty disheartening. So I was hoping my first run through would be a little bit more successful than that, but you can see there's some huge scratches. And so what I'm going to have to do is take each wheel and see what the go is. So what I'm looking at here is for uniform scratches. If I see one big deep scratch in there, then I know that I haven't gotten the scratch off from the previous wheel. So this has just come off of the 600 wheel, and as you go, you just want to make sure that after every wheel you dry it off and you have a look at it, and you want those scratches to look really consistent. You see how they're all very similar, the same size. You don't have any really thick one going the other way. Alright, so that's all the way through. Pretty happy with that polish. You can see there's a bit of ribbing there, but that doesn't happen whenever you've got stone up on the dopstick because you're spinning it around. Quality of polish there is very nice. This is actually the next day I'm down in the shop because I had some issues jumping from the 260 grit up to the 220. When you're using these laps, you need to have a really light touch because they're super aggressive. The diamonds are embedded in that nickel and the steel plate, and they'll cut really aggressively. So in order to make this jump, you need to have a really light touch whenever you're cutting here so the scratches aren't so deep that the 220 purple can't take them out. Now I know it's a little counterintuitive to go from a 260 back down to a 220, but because you're changing the types of disc that you're moving from, once I made that jump and I started using a lighter touch with this wheel and a slightly heavier touch with the 220, I was able to get that really nice polish that I can get with my arbor. Alright, so now that I've gone through that process where I've just taken a piece of potch and made sure that I could get a really nice glassy finish on it, I'm going to go ahead and cut an opal. The first opal you should always cut on a new machine is always a circle. It's the least amount of tricky angles, it's the easiest shape of stone to cut. I'll cut a circle on here, but I want to tell you, like, anytime you do anything with opal, there's always a bit of a learning curve. You know, there are machines that are made for cutting stones, lapidary stones, and they're not necessarily made for cutting opal. And so there's always going to be that little bit of playing around, trying to figure out how to get the machine that you have set up and cut on it in a way that's appropriate for opal. There's always a bit of a learning curve there, and I want to just encourage you that whenever you get this machine and you start cutting on it, and if you see scratches in your material, don't be disheartened. Don't think, oh, well, you know, this machine just can't do it. That's not the case. The case is that there's a bit of a learning curve there, and if you start with a flat piece, and if you can get a perfect polish on a flat piece, then you can progress to, you know, cutting circles, and then from circles to ovals, and then from ovals to whatever you want. But there's always going to be that learning curve there, and just persist. You know, sit down, take deep breaths. Don't get worked up about it. It'll be okay. You just need to figure out and work through those progressions step by step until you get your polish perfect. All right, so I found a nice little piece of potch here, and I'm going to just try to cut a nice little circle. We're going to start out with the 180 grit wheel. Alright, so that's a pretty standard rub for me. I'm just looking for a parallel top and bottom and perpendicular sides. Maybe a 7. If you use a mechanical pencil for this purpose, your lines will be nice and crisp and much easier to follow. Alright, now we just want to cut straight to the line. So when I cut to the line, it's often flared out on the bottom like that. You never want to undercut it. You don't want to cut underneath your line. You always want it to come out. Once you have it to the line, work on making the sides perpendicular to the top. All right, once you have it nice and close, time to get it up on a dopstick. Glue there. You do need to make sure that the surface is clean and dry. And you need to make sure it's centered. Spin it 90 degrees, more or less centered there. UV light shines up through the glass top and sets the glue. Proud here, a bit proud there. So this is the point where I start tucking in those edges a little bit and just refining that shape. There's still going to be a couple of little lines there where the two curves meet. I'm going to take those lines out. Now we go up to the 600. Once I'm finished with the face, I just dop it backwards. I usually use a bigger dop, and I just want to take off this bottom corner here. That bottom corner here is one of the biggest reasons that opals get cracked while setting. See, I've just taken the very corner off of it there. Okay, if you just use a very small bit, you can just pop them off. See how easy that is? There's a little bit of residual glue left on here. You can just wipe that off. Alright, so here it is. This is the first opal cut on the new Hi-Tech 8. Polish on this really quite nice, I think. I think that going from that 260 down to the 220 and then up through the progression there, if it gives you stones like this, I mean, you could absolutely cut commercially acceptable stones that way. Alright, well that's day 3 finished with the Hi-Tech 8-inch slant lap. Look, I'm really happy with the way that this has turned out. It's taken me 3 days. I had to work through some issues, but I've got it set up now that I could easily cut commercially acceptable stones with this setup. If I cut with my arbor, I can finish a stone like the black one I just finished in 12 and a half minutes. I know that because I've cut tens of thousands of them, and that's just an average for, you know, 4 or 5 carat stone. If I was cutting it with a Dremel, it'd probably take me an hour, and it wouldn't look nearly as nice as that stone did. And that's not me being really familiar with the angle. It's slightly different, but it's not that much harder to learn, jumping in from one automatic car to another automatic car. If you jump on the website, the Hi-Tech website, and enter the code 53frogs, 53FROGS, you'll get 10% off of any of the non-machine items. So if you want to order any of these extra discs for your machine, if you want to order one of the irrigation setups, if you want to order any of the accessories that go with this machine, that'll give you, I think it's a small 10% discount off of those items. So please go ahead and use that, and we'll give you a link down below if you want to grab one of these machines. Please use that link. They'll give me, I don't know, it's a small percentage, a single-digit percentage of the sale. I appreciate that. I don't get any money for doing these YouTube videos, and it costs me a lot of time and money to put them up for you guys, so I'd really appreciate if you use that link. Thanks everybody so much for your support and sticking with me till the end. If you could, please press the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, and the like button. It sure helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Many thanks, and we'll see you later.